Today's video is going to be a fun look back at how things have changed since the introduction of the weapon refinery. Specifically, I wanted to focus on legendary or unique weapon evolutions, which isn't a major mechanic anymore because, well, they sort of stopped doing them. Now, the main inspiration for this video was the release of Resplendent Eliwood, because Eliwood is one of the few units who gets access to 2 unique weapons thanks to being able to evolve Durandal into Blazing Durandal from Brave Roy. Blazing Durandal also happened to get one of the best weapon refined abilities in the game, at least to me personally, and what happens when you allow a common 3 to 4 star launch unit to get access to such a powerful weapon. There are no official reasons as to why legendary weapon evolutions stopped being a thing, but as we explore these cases, I think there are some pretty obvious conclusions as to why new ones no longer get added today. First, let's make sure we all know what a weapon evolution is, because when we talk about the weapon refinery, most times it's about weapon refines. A weapon evolution normally applies to older inheritable weapons. When the weapon refinery first came out, it allowed us to evolve the launch day inheritable weapons into stronger versions, because it was pretty apparent that inheritable weapons were just largely behind the unique weapons in terms of power. For example, the Killing Edge Plus can be evolved into a Slaying Edge Plus. They have the same effect, but the Slaying Edge has more might and has become the new standard. As the name of this video suggests, there are also legendary or unique weapon evolutions, but in many cases, these are largely considered side grade options rather than full straight on upgrades. If you want to get these evolutions, they cost 150 divine due, not as expensive as the usual refined upgrade, but still very expensive. It also gets even worse if you want the evolved weapons refined, because that's going to cost the full 200 divine due on top, no discounts. Altogether, 350 divine due is pretty pricey, but perhaps you like the playstyle of the other weapon. With the launch of the weapon refinery in year 1, there was an initial batch of legendary weapon evolutions, with a few more added later on. Eventually this process stopped and so far hasn't picked back up. The first 2 evolution examples will make it pretty clear why they probably stopped adding more. For OG Hector, he comes with Armads and can pick up Valentine Hector's Berserk Armads. Regular Armads comes with Quick Repose, while Berserk Armads has accelerated specials plus Wrath. Hector has proved from day 1 just how potent Quick Repose is as a skill, and it's still a godsend for any slow units that want to kill enemies in one round. While Berserk Armads offers a pretty potent one-shot counterattack playstyle, it's still tough to beat the classic Quick Repose tank playstyle. Not to mention, regular Hector had a pretty neat Omnibreaker build going for him. Since both of these Hectors are axe armor units, if you never got Valentine's Hector, you could just give Berserk Armads to regular Hector if you want to give it a try. It's not really a purely better option, but the option was there. Next we got Ephraim, whose regular Siegmund has a built-in Hone Attack 3 buff, and when refined grants a follow-up attack when near full HP. He can grab legendary Ephraim's Flame Siegmund, which is a much more aggressive weapon. It grants extra attack and a follow-up attack when surrounded by more enemies than allies. Unlike the 2 Hectors, regular Ephraim is an infantry unit and legendary Ephraim is a cavalry unit. Because Flame Siegmund requires more nearby enemies than allies, you need Ephraim to get into action first, or he has to be off on his own. Arguably, the 3 movement of a Cavalier is better for this playstyle, so while Flame Siegmund is the clear winner if you want an offensive build, legendary Ephraim should be able to use the weapon better just in the general sense of that solo playstyle. Personally, as someone who uses regular Ephraim a lot, I do have both of these weapons on hand. Since I run my Ephraim with Distant Counter and Quick Repose, I stick with the regular Siegmund, but when I want to mess around with a more aggressive build, I like the Flame Siegmund for obvious reasons. I'd make the case that something like Sturdy Impact with a low skill is the more normal meta setup. Now here's why these legendary weapon evolutions probably got retired. You see, Hector and Ephraim are pretty popular characters, and that applies to most of the main lords as well. When they added alts for these characters, they also decided to give them their main legendary weapons, just with a different effect and a slightly different name. Ephraim gets his regular Siegmund, legendary Ephraim has Flame Siegmund, and winter Ephraim has Festive Siegmund. Hector has Armads, Valentine's Hector gets Berserk Armads, and legendary Hector has Thunder Armads. If they decide to keep doing this for more and more units and weapons, then why would people summon for those new, possibly limited time units? It wasn't a really bad idea to give units some choices, but to continue doing it would just mean players could just grab these new shiny weapon versions on their old heroes instead of summoning for the new alts. While some characters got lucky, here are some of the potential opportunities we didn't get. Regular Erica can't grab her legendary versions, Storm Siglin, and Marth can't get his Exalted Falchion either. Both of their base versions are rather supportive in nature, while Storm Siglin and Exalted Falchion are pretty combative. The playstyle of these units would change dramatically. You also got Julia, who cannot grab Virtuous Naga, and there are many more, like Brave Linde can't get legendary Linde, Swift Mulligear, and Ike probably is not going to get the new Fallen Ike's Chaos Ragno. Can you imagine how potent that would be, especially since Chaos Ragno is a straight upgrade? It's not really surprising why this feature got discontinued. For the rest of this video, we'll cover the other legendary weapon evolutions and briefly discuss them just like we did with Ephraim and Hector. Continuing where we left off, we have Linde's Aura and Delthea's Dark Aura. Regular Aura grants +6 attack to adjacent mages and healers for 1 turn. Its refined effect gives Linde +5 attack and speed if she's near any major healer ally. For Dark Aura, it has a similar effect, but it targets melee units and even gives the same attack and speed boost. If you want to give Linde Dark Aura, you're basically just swapping to a different group of allies you want to work with. This evolution is a true side grade where both weapons are very similar in effect. Next we have Merric's Excalibur and Sonya's Dark Excalibur. These two go in very different directions. For regular Excalibur, it's effective against flying units and gives Merric the slang effect, which ain't bad. The refined effect is the same as Linde's Aura with an attack and speed boost if Merric is near a major healer ally. Now for Dark Excalibur, it's a Woedao Tome which grants +10 damage on special trigger. If you refine it, you can get a one-time use of -2 special cooldown on turn 1. Very popular tome for infantry pulse type teams since Sonya just gets an instant special with 10 extra damage. For those that like Merric, giving him Dark Excalibur can give him a very different playstyle, and he's a 3 to 4 star summonable unit versus Sonya's 5-star rarity. Sonya does just have way more base attack than Merric though, so it's not like Merric does her job better. Next we have a fun one. The 3 Awakening Falchions owned by Lucina, masked Marth, and Chrom can be evolved into Exalt Chrom's Sealed Falchion. Regular Falchion is effective against dragons and has Renewal 3 built in for some healing every other turn. If you refine it, then these guys can get +4 to all stats if they're adjacent to any ally. Now for Sealed Falchion, it's effective against dragons and can grant +5 to all stats, but only if Chrom has less than 100% HP. Now I've seen both of these weapons be used on Lucina, Chrom, and Masked Marth, and you do have different playstyles. For the regular Falchion, you can stack renewal skills with reciprocal aid for a pseudo combat medic role, or stack bond skills for tons of stats. Sealed Falchion is a less ally reliant weapon and could be fun with some brazen skills for low HP tactics. If Sealed Falchion can get a refine, that could potentially make it a better weapon overall. For Eldigan, he has his Mystletainn and can get access to Ares' Dark Mystletainn. The regular version accelerates special trigger and its refine includes Fury 3 for extra stats. If you want Dark Mystletainn, it also accelerates specials, but then comes with Special Spire 3, which is an insane effect on a weapon. Dark Mystletainn makes Ares a very popular 3 to 4 star unit, and with Eldigan being a 5-star only hero, it makes it tough to say it's worth spending extra Divine Dew for Eldigan when you can just use his son. If you just like using Eldigan more, then Dark Mystletainn is definitely worth the investment since it gives Ares a very unique playstyle. You can run it with Vantage and always have a 3 cooldown special like Bonfire ready to counter with every round of combat, or you can opt for an AoE Special Spiral set which Cavaliers cannot normally run since they can't inherit Special Spiral. There's also the Mystic Boost plus Miracle build, which is absolutely hilarious to see in action. Ares is one of those 3 to 4 star demotes that is really neat thanks to already having a good unique weapon, and maybe that could be another video topic of its own entirely. Up next we have Julia, who has her Naga tome. She can get Deirdre's Divine Naga, and these are both pretty good weapons. For regular Naga, it's effective against dragons and gives Julia +4 defense and res if the foe initiates combat. If you refine it, then when Julia fights a dragon foe, she negates adaptive damage and gains close counter. For Divine Naga, it's also effective against dragons, but its base effect disables adaptive damage while also totally negating all field buffs. If you refine this tome, then at the start of combat, if Deirdre has more than 3 res than her opponent, she gains +3 to all stats during combat. Julia and Deirdre are both 5-star green mages, so it really just comes down to stat preferences. Deirdre just has more base resistance than Julia, so for refined Divine Naga, she just has more chances to proc its effect. She also just has more speed if you wanted to take advantage of the bonus speed from the weapon in something like a Fury build. As for Julia, being able to have close counter while not sacrificing the A skill is fantastic even if it's only versus dragons. She becomes a very cool dragon counter who can fire back, and she doesn't necessarily use Divine Naga any better than Deirdre. This one is a total side grade option for Julia. Now let's talk about Seliph and his Tyrfing versus Sigurd's Divine Tyrfing. Regular Tyrfing was hot garbage on release, but it got its base effect changed if you upgrade it in the weapon refinery. Tyrfing gives Seliph a miracle effect if he starts the fight over 50% HP, and it's a beautiful ability because so many people underestimate him. If you do not deal 99% of his HP in one attack, or you aren't attacking more than twice, then you're not going to kill Seliph in one round. This makes him super fun in 8th raids as a defense unit because if you try to bait Seliph on the enemy phase, he can survive unwinnable fights on 1 HP and set up the rest of his team as a Wings of Mercy beacon. If you get the special upgrade, Tyrfing also gets attack and defense bond 3, which is a nice boost for when Seliph isn't phase tanking on 1 HP. Now for Sigurd's Divine Tyrfing, it grants a flat +3 resistance and reduces damage from the first mage attack by 50%. Magic refers to tome users, not healers or dragons. I would be pretty excited for a refine for a Divine Tyrfing because this weapon is kinda similar to Brave Egg's Irvin with a percentage damage reduction ability. It's supposed to work in tandem with Sigurd's Crusader's Word B skill to essentially allow the guy to survive Reinhardt. After seeing Irvin's awesome refine, I hope Divine Tyrfing can also become a good defensive weapon because most refines are on the offensive side. I do think Seliph can use Divine Tyrfing just fine because 50% less damage from mages is pretty potent, but should Seliph get doubled, he does take full damage since he doesn't have Crusader's Ward to protect him from the second attack. Divine Tyrfing doesn't work that well with distant counter just like old Irvin, so if this weapon's refine can change that, then maybe even Seliph would be a good user of the weapon despite not having his father's unique B skill. Last legendary weapon evolution we have for today is Eliwood's Durandal being able to become Brave Roy's Blazing Durandal. This one is by far the one I see most people chase after. For regular Durandal, it grants +6 attack on initiations, and its refine gave it an additional +4 attack and speed as well. Basically combining Deathblow and Swift Sparrow, which is fine since Eliwood's base attack and speed aren't super crazy. Now when we got the Choose Your Legends 1 batch of refines last year, these were some of the most powerful refines in the game. Blazing Durandal got its base effect changed to when Bright initiates combat, he gains special cooldown charge +1 per attack, and inflicts special cooldown charge -1 on the foe per attack. This is literally a player phase special fighter skill, but on a cavalry unit. If you grab the special refine, then Roy also gains +7 speed and +10 defense on initiations, plus the foe loses a follow-up attack. This is a speed-based impact ability. I'm surprised we haven't seen this ability come as an actual city impact skill. Blazing Durandal got a huge buff and gives Roy access to 2 skills that Cavaliers cannot normally get. It's an incredible weapon plus refine. Now because Eliwood can also get Blazing Durandal, he scored big time. Regular Durandal isn't bad at all, but Blazing Durandal opens up huge possibilities, including one of the best go for setups you can ask for, and it helps patches up Eliwood's not so great defense stat. He can use the extra speed to get more doubles, and the fast special charging can also let him proc damage specials faster, which can easily make up for the loss of attack from regular Durandal. The real kicker is that Eliwood is a launch 3 to 4 star unit. Brave Roy has better offensive stats than Eliwood, but not by much. Eliwood is just way easier to +10, and that can overcome Brave Roy's stat advantage for those who aren't looking to have +10 Brave Roys. We also got Resplendent Eliwood, who just gets +2 to all stats if you're willing to spend some cash. I personally don't like how this stat boost got implemented, but it is what it is, and currently makes Eliwood a really good alternative to Brave Roy, even at the cost of extra Divine Dew. This is just one of the consequences of allowing Eliwood to even have access to Blazing Durandal, and this was allowed all the way back in year 1 when the weapon refinery opened. It's super apparent why this feature got stopped. Why would I use orbs or money to summon the new 5-star only units when I can just use older units I already have and just steal their shiny new weapons? For 5-star to 5-star comparisons, Hector is a good example because legendary Hector's Thunder Armads basically adopts the same playstyle regular Hector had, including the Omnibreaker build. If someone already has a +10 OG Hector, they could just grab Thunder Armads and not summon another 11 and legendary Hectors, legendary bonuses aside. When something in a game gets changed that's not directly related to actual game balance, a lot of the time it's probably because of money. If you're a newer player, hopefully you learned something today, and maybe you have some of these units who can pick up these legendary evolutions. Feel free to let everyone know in the comments if you have any of these evolutions and give your thoughts on them. Was it worth the extra 150 Divine Dew, and how do you like to use the weapon? Thanks for watching, I'll see you guys in the next video.